All right, today we are watching a program that I have very little idea as to what it actually is. It's called As the Twig is Bent, and it is by an unknown production company. It literally says unknown. We might figure that out later, but for now we have no idea who made this, and the publication date is 1943. So that is just before World War II? No, this is during World War II, I think. Yeah, this is during World War II. All right, so that's what we're watching today. As the Twig is Bent from 1943, during World War II. What this is, I really have no idea. So let's just dive in, shall we? Distributed by the New York University Film Library. That's interesting. That's so weird how the distributor is the New York University Film Library. I just feel like distributors, that's just not, I don't know. I just feel like a distributor and a library are a different thing in my mind. Okay, so here's the production company, the Affiliated Aetna Life Companies. Aetna? Is that how you say it? Aetna? Aetna? It has the ash. That's such an old letter for them to even be using. That's crazy. That's like that's like more antiquated than any of this is that letter alone. This must be like an insurance company, life companies, an Affiliated Aetna Life Companies. That sounds like life insurance to me. I don't know if that's what it is, but like that's who made this program. See, that's the point of trying to figure this out too, is to like understand the company that funded this program. Like who made this? Why? For what purpose? Like if I knew what this company was, I might have a better idea of why this was made. But I still have no clue what we're even going to be learning about today. So let's keep going then. But can somebody in the comments look up what this company was? I'm just curious. As the Twig is Bent. I've been so curious about this one. There is just like no context clues whatsoever as to what this is about. So I'm trying to guess. I'm trying to come up with a guess as to what the title even means. As the Twig is Bent. Like, I don't want to guess. I have a guess based on the word bent, but like, no, I'm not guessing at all. Like, we're just gonna go. The music is very eerie, though. That's an interesting trumpet note right there. Okay, hang on. Produced by the Motion Picture Bureau of the Affiliated... Oh, okay, so this is the same credits that we just saw a second ago. Hartford, Connecticut. Damn, shout out to Hartford, Connecticut. I've been to Hartford once because I grew up in Westchester, but like, that's funny to see Hartford get a mention. Shout out to anyone from Hartford. Can I get some comments from my Hartford followers? Okay, already, this is not what I was expecting. I was not expecting us to fade in on like a choir of church boys. But you know what? That's kind of promising. This might actually deserve to be in the red channel. We'll see. We'll see if this deserves the red or not. This is interesting, just to see what the kids of this era looked like, though. They all kind of look the same, except for this one in the middle. That's interesting. I wonder... I don't know if that's cool to say, but like this kid is a different ethnicity. I wonder if like, I don't know. I'm curious about that now.
These are America's future citizens.
America's future citizens. That's funny. I mean, I guess you could argue that these are also America's current citizens, both when this was being recorded and right now. Wait, hang on. 1943? These people are 7 years old in 1943. So these people are probably like 80 or 90 now. So yeah, these are American citizens as we're watching this, and these might still be American citizens now. Isn't that crazy?
The kids they are fighting for all over the world.
Like this little girl might still be alive.
These are the boys and girls to whom we must look for leadership in our post-war democracy.
In our post-war democracy. So is this post-war, or are they saying when this war is over, we're going to look to these kids for our leadership? I don't know. I can't tell.
These are America's hope for the future.
Just leaping over it? That's a weird little exercise. Is this what kids used to do in like gym class? Is just like somersault over each other? Is this what tumbling is? Is this I've never learned what tumbling is, but this seems like it's what tumbling would be. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if this is tumbling or not. Whoa, that kid just did a backflip. They faded out right as he did a backflip. Wow. Oh, great. Or he did like a jump to standing. I don't know. I don't know what you call those actually. Again, more school children in like the fanciest attire. Like imagine going to school in a button down and a tie. Like this kid is this kid's going somewhere at least. But look at their desks, right? They have these little desks with the cubbies underneath them. Like even that, like the classroom environment. It's so fascinating to see how things once were and how similar they still are.
But as the twig...
'Tis education forms the common mind, just as the twig is bent, the tree's inclined. Okay, so the title of this program is coming from this Alexander Pope poem. So if I truly want to understand the purpose of this program, I should try to understand this poem. Should I try that? Are you guys down for that? Do you want me to spend like 5 minutes trying to decipher what this poem is about? So 'tis education forms the common mind, just as the twig is bent, the tree's inclined. I just don't get it. I don't. I'll be honest. I don't really get what I'm reading here. Hopefully somebody explains this to me or something. Education forms the mind, just as the twig is bent, the tree's inclined. All right, guys. I'm giving up on this part. I can't come up with anything to say for how this, well, I mean, I guess I don't even know what this program is about, so I don't even know how to analyze this anyway. Yeah, I'm skipping this. I can't figure it out, all right? We're gonna have to just keep going.
Is bent, the trees inclined. These were the boys and girls of yesterday.
These were the boys and girls of yesterday. This guy looks like 40 years old. He's breaking into these people's house like while smoking a cigar. Like, I hope that's accurate. I hope that is what thieves would do.
Kids whose fathers and brothers fought for them in the First World
Like,
War.
would people just do that? People would go into your open window and just steal your stuff? Like, I don't know. Maybe close your windows then. Like, maybe that's not the problem of the person who's stealing. Maybe that's the problem of the person who leaves their windows open. But I guess that's another interesting aspect of the past, right? Like, people used to leave their windows just open without even like a screen or anything. Like, bugs would just get in. Learning how people used to leave their houses, you know?
They, too, might have become good American citizens, but instead enemies of society.
But instead they became enemies of society. So, hang on. So we're talking about how the generation prior to the war became like thieves or whatever, and how the generation that's alive now during the war is like the last hope of humanity or the last hope of the country, really. So that's interesting. So what happened to the generation immediately prior? Maybe the Great Depression, I guess. But what happened to them to make them criminals, I guess? I don't know. Maybe the Great Depression. Who knows? Dude, you could just steal a car like that. You could just open the car window and just like open the door like that. Like, like, is that really true? Like, could you do that, or did these windows lock? You know, am I being taken for a ride because I don't actually know? Or is this like totally accurate? Like, I really have no idea. Dang, I didn't know those car windows opened like that either. Like, go back and like see how that window like rotated off of the door. Like, that's so weird. That's just another little interesting nugget of information preserved in one of these. Hang on, so what are we even talking about though? So we're talking about criminality in the generation prior to the one that was young during when this was made. So yeah, this was people who were probably raised or grew up in like the 20s or 30s. So yeah, these are all people whose early lives were affected by the Great Depression. Maybe that's why they're stealing stuff. Maybe they're not just like a lost generation. Maybe they're actually like traumatized by their upbringing. Maybe. The gunshot sound is just like a rubber band like hitting a piece of meat or something. Whatever they used to get that sound effect, I'm pretty certain that's not what guns sound like or sounded like. Maybe guns from back then sounded like a little plastic trigger or a rubber band snapping, but like that did not sound like a gunshot to me. Would this just happen too? You would just turn a corner in a city and some guy would just like shoot you? Like, I don't know. Like, is that real? This is like the beginning of Batman right here. This is like Batman's origin story right in front of us. This is a historical account of the Batman origin story right here.
Behind every hardened criminal is the shadow of a youthful lawbreaker. Into the pattern of every...
Hang on, behind every lawbreaker is the shadow of a youthful... What? A youthful lawbreaker? So that's interesting. So I guess they're making the argument that like the pattern of behavior that leads to criminality starts in your early years, which I guess is true. I guess like juvenile delinquency, like if you're a trouble kid, you're probably going to be a trouble adult too. So I guess that's fair. But again, what we're not really addressing is like the traumatic Great Depression that these people lived through.
Major crime is woven a story of parental neglect, of misguided youth.
Parental neglect and misguided youth. See, I feel like you can't have all your country's dads like in a war and all your country's moms in the factory and then complain about like parental neglect. Yeah, these kids were neglected because their mothers were making bombs for their dads to drop on the Nazis, you know? I don't know. I mean, maybe not, obviously, but like, I don't know. That's just like a weird historical context of everything.
Just as the twig is bent, the trees incline.
Just as the twig is bent, the trees incline. So what, this is now the second time we've been brought back to this sentiment? So interesting. Just as the twig is bent, the trees inclined. I don't know what that means. Still, I'm still thinking about it. This first statement does make sense. 'Tis education forms the common mind. Yeah, like public education kind of levels all of our mentalities to the same point because we learn all the same things. So that sort of makes sense. Just as the twig is bent, the trees inclined. Maybe I'll know what this means by the end of it. See, that's the test question right here. Can some of you guys in the comments write what your interpretation of this poem is and how that relates to the subject material of this program? That's what I want to read. So yeah, that's your assignment for today. Write an essay on how this poem actually relates to what we're watching right now. Please, I will read them all.
The American...
Oh wow, so this is so funny. So not only are we getting to see like a standard like American neighborhood from before the war, but we're getting to see a standard American trailer park, which I didn't even know existed back then. Like again, that's how my mind works. I just did not even realize or ever really think about people living in trailer parks all the way back in the 40s. But here we can clearly see this is a trailer park. Like this mode of living has existed here in America for a lot longer than I thought, and probably all you guys thought as well. That's so amazing. Again, that's why I watch these old programs, is these preserved nuggets of like daily life that aren't even related to the subject material of the program, but because this is film, we get to see these snapshots into American life that we otherwise never would have. And these snapshots provide us with information we never really knew, like that there were trailer parks all the way back in the 1940s. Like that's why these things are so cool to watch.
Home is fast becoming home in name only. Thousands of families migrating to industrial areas are faced with inadequate housing and recreation facilities.
See, that's interesting how they're even making mention of like the thousands of families moving into industrial sectors. You know, like that's not something that would ever be mentioned here in America nowadays. Like there aren't thousands of people moving towards industrial sectors in cities. Maybe there are, but like I really don't think that's like a determining factor in like American population movements anymore. So that's like, it's interesting that they noted it there.
Parents working side by side in essential factories.
See, this is what I said. I literally said that. The women are working in the factories. And maybe the men are working in the factories too, but most of the men, or no, some of the men are at least are in Europe fighting the war. So we can see they actually are admitting that some of the parental neglect might have been a result of the war effort, which is interesting again. It's interesting to think how the youth of this country was affected during the war by the war. You know, like it's just probably something that a lot of people have spent a lot of time thinking about, actually.
Offices and shipyards sacrifice the equally essential job of maintaining a normal home life.
So yeah, this is like the first generation of moms who like left the house to go to work, right? Like maybe not like in all of human history, but for like American history, yeah, right? Like this is the first time ladies are drinking coffee, eating like breakfast meats, and then going to their factory for work. Like this is the beginning of this form of American society. It's fascinating. And what you realize is like the women working in these factories is what allowed them to gain more rights in America, right? Because all the men were gone. Like these women were working equally as hard to provide for their families and for the war effort. Like they deserved an equal say in the government and what happens with war. You know, if these women are responsible for making the bombs that fuel the war, then they should also get a say in whether or not we're doing the war in the first place. You know, it's just like we're getting to see the very beginning. Maybe not the very beginning of the women's suffrage movement, but we are getting to witness the very beginning of women actually acquiring power through their own labor in this country. And that is a very fascinating development. Dang, so this is what people would do? They would just write letters to their kids before going to the factory for the day? Like, that's crazy. Also, what are these kids wearing? Like, this boy is wearing a very normal shirt, actually, but this girl is wearing, like, lederhosen or something. Johnny may work late. Meat for sandwiches in the... I can't read most of this letter, but it seems like a fairly standard letter. So that's just like the kids getting the letter saying that their dad is going to work late. See, like that's exactly what I said would happen though. Like, I don't know, the child neglect happens as a result of the economic conditions of the country a lot of the time. Again, you can avoid like all criminality so long as you assure that your population is like well taken care of and have like loving families. Which I guess is actually pretty hard to ensure.
Children of all ages are feeling the effects of war, and impressionable young minds...
Damn, what a statement right there. Children of all ages are feeling the effects of war. Like, gee, like we don't say stuff like that anymore, or at least not here in America.
Minds are too often being influenced into wrongdoing. Smaller children...
I think it's hilarious that these kids are playing like dice games. Like it's like it's old school RuneScape outside the Grand Exchange or something. Like they're actually gambling at the schoolhouse playing die. Like that's such an antiquated game to be gambling on too. Like just rolling die. Like I love that little detail. Again, it's the little details like this. Like these kids could have been playing poker for gambling, but no, they're rolling die for gambling because that's an older ass way of gambling, you know?
Left to their own devices, are following the example of older children and learning habits.
Like, is this game even fun? You're literally rolling die. Like there's no skill. Like you're just, I don't know. It seems too boring and too unengaging for kids to ever have actually done. But I guess we're seeing that they did do this.
Practices far too old for their years.
That's funny. Are these kids like smoking cigarettes behind this thing? Is that why we're not seeing them? That's so funny. Hang on. I got to go back to hear what he said. Because it sounds like, yeah, that's what they're doing. They're just smoking cigarettes. Which is really funny to think that kids always sneak out and start smoking cigarettes. Like, kids in my high school did that too. I feel like smoking cigarettes as a kid was like way different back then though, right? In the 1940s, like we weren't aware of all the negative health impacts of smoking cigarettes. So like, I think kids honestly probably were allowed to smoke cigarettes, or at least some were, or at least some didn't have parents to tell them not to, you know? So like, I think you actually would have seen kids smoking cigarettes back in the day.
School-age children without supervision are playing hooky from school.
School-aged children without supervision are playing hooky from school. It's so funny that even he is saying playing hooky. Like that phrase has already like entered the main vocabulary of the country by this point. Wonder where it comes from. Where does the term hooky come from? Maybe the SpongeBob episode.
Spending their time on the streets, in theaters, and other places of amusement.
The hooks. That's all I got. Hang on. So this is a girl handwriting a letter to their teacher to excuse them. Please excuse Douglas and Betsy this afternoon. That's so funny to think a kid would handwrite a letter like this and give it to their teacher as like their parents' note. And especially because of like their childish handwriting. I guess this is pretty impressive script for a child, actually. This is better script than I could write in. I can print letters better, but I cannot write in script for crap. So like this is better script than mine. But like even this, I don't think this would fool a teacher. Like if you handwrite all your assignments in school and then you hand your teacher this handwritten letter with your handwriting on it still, like I think they're going to be able to tell. Maybe not, but like I think they are. And these kids, what's so funny about this is these kids look like such good kids, you know, they look like good apples. And here they are writing a teacher's note from their parents to get them out of school. It's funny. So is that what we're learning about today? Are we learning about kids playing hooky? I still don't quite understand what this program is even about. Hang on, what are they watching? William Benoit Guadalcanal Diary? Is this a real it must be. I always ask that. Is this a real movie? It must be a real movie. Has anyone ever heard of William Benoit's Guadalcanal Diary? I'm so curious about this now. Is that like, I gotta look up this movie. Can some of you look up this movie and leave it in the comments? What's this movie about? When was it made? Like what? I just want to learn everything about this movie now. Dude, what's so funny is I know these are kids, but because of their clothing, to me, they look like 60 years old. Like from behind, even though they're small, they still look like old people to me, you know? I don't know if I'm the only one, but like the girl especially looks like everyone's mom from the 50s. Which I guess makes sense. I guess she was probably the right age to be a mom in the 50s. Oh man, all these kids skipping school and just going to the employment office. What a bunch of truants.
Teenage boys and girls are leaving high schools and colleges for well-paying jobs.
See, that's very interesting because like that's just such a topical sort of thing to be happening, right? Like kids leaving school to go and apply for jobs. Like that's just something that people would talk about nowadays, you know? It's just that's such a human thing, or I guess such an American society thing where like some kids like don't go to school, don't go to college, they just get jobs. But like that's so interesting that kids were also even allowed to just like leave school and just like get a job somewhere. Like that's another little insight into what it was like to be a child or a kid during this era. Hang on, date of application, January 1944. So that's interesting. So this was maybe filmed in 43, but released, or maybe it was filmed in 44 as well. That's interesting. Hang on, what's his telephone number? Does he have like 4 digits or 5 digits for his telephone number? Is that true? Is that how long telephone numbers used to be back then? It's crazy how they would even ask for your telephone number back then as well. Like, did so many people have telephones that was like a very standard thing by this time?
Pockets filled with money, these young people are seeking dangerous thrills and excitement in semi-darkened taverns.
See, they keep saying stuff like that. That was actually a really funny statement, but they keep saying these kids are seeking like danger or whatever. I haven't seen that in the program yet. Like I've only seen kids being like really responsible so far. Like these kids, the kids that we're looking at right now are applying to a job. Like I dare you to try to get a 16-year-old me to apply to a job, especially like without my parents even knowing. Like my parents had to force me to apply to jobs. So that, I don't know. I don't have a problem with what these kids are doing right now. Hang on, I want to hear that statement that he said though.
Pockets filled with money, These young people...
Pockets filled with money. Okay, so that's interesting. So these kids are ditching school, getting jobs that give them money, which allow them to do things that maybe their parents don't want them to do. That's interesting. It's interesting how you're connecting kids getting jobs and work to kids being like criminals or like misbehaving. That's just it's a funny pipeline. the economic pipeline from being a kid to economic necessity.
Dangerous thrills and excitement in semi-darkened taverns.
Pursuing thrills and excitement in semi-darkened taverns. What a weird... That's very specific. So they must be going into like secret bootleg bars or something. What are they called? Speakeasies. They're kind of suggesting they're drinking alcohol by going into a semi-dark tavern, but like, I don't know. I don't even know what they really mean by that.
Where jukeboxes and dance floors.
Jukeboxes and dance floors. That's so funny that was seen as like the evil back then. It's like, oh my God, like this box that music comes out of and this flat ground for all these kids to move their bodies on. Like, I don't know. It's so funny that was like an evil thing back then to most people.
Often leads to trouble.
Yeah, like again, what's so funny is that they describe what we're seeing now as trouble. Like this kind of dancing, like I kind of get that, like, okay, your 16-year-old is out dancing with girls, like maybe that's questionable, but then this sort of dancing that's like so proper by today's standards, it's so funny that like they didn't see it that way back then. Like if you went to a bar or a club and started trying to dance with girls like this, they wouldn't even know what you were doing. Like you would just not be very successful. Like this is such a tame version of children dancing in a bar. Like let me tell you, the 16-year-olds are not dancing like this anymore. Thing that was funny. They kind of just danced on over to the booth now. They kind of just both quit at dancing at the same time. What songs were they listening to? What was like the such bad music that was coming out of these jukeboxes, right? It's 1944. I don't even know what sort of music they were listening to. Was it like jazz? Like was that the evil sort of music? It wasn't rock and roll yet, right? They weren't even listening to that sort of stuff. So like, what could have been so evil that everyone would have thought they would become criminals for listening to it? I don't know. Like, again, they're playing this like these kids are misbehaving, but like they still seem like they're just being normal people. Like, I just can't actually find the fault in their behavior yet. Maybe they're skipping school, but like if they have a job already, then like whatever. Like that's the point of school. I don't know. I mean, I guess this 16-year-old kid is smoking cigarettes and ordering beers in a tavern. So maybe that's the delinquency part of it all. But like, I don't know, like, isn't it the bar's responsibility to ask for like their age even? I mean, they might not have IDs or driver's licenses back then. Maybe they probably did, but like, I don't know. I feel like they shouldn't be serving this kid beer if that's the case. It is really funny, though, to imagine this is what the 16-year-olds of the 1940s were doing, is smoking cigarettes in, like, taverns while drinking beers. I guess that's not that different than what we are doing at 16 either, but it's just like, I don't know, it's so public. Like, 16-year-olds now would never be able to go into a bar and order drinks, you know?
Young, romantically inclined girls, confused by the hero-worshipping spirit of wartime.
That was a very funny statement, too. I'm going to listen to all of that over again, because I want to say that out loud.
Young, romantically inclined girls.
Young, romantically inclined girls. Just as the tree is inclined, these girls are romantically inclined.
Confused by the hero-worshipping spirit of wartime.
Confused by the hero-worshipping spirit of wartime. Can I just say that a few more times? She was confused by the hero-worshipping spirit of the wartime. I need to say that like 3 times at least for us to fully appreciate it, because like that is a statement and a half. Like you could write a whole essay on just that statement alone. Like, oh my gosh. Confused by the hero worshipping spirit. Like, it's so bizarre. Like, I don't know. That is so bizarre. And to put it on this girl, like, this girl has fallen for the trap of worshipping heroes. Like, like, I don't know. That really does not seem like the girl's fault.
Are finding it hard to resist the glamour of military uniforms.
Oh, okay, so they're finding it hard to resist the glamour of military uniforms. So they're saying that girls are very easily swayed by boys who have the military uniforms. That's funny. So yeah, girls are getting up to trouble with those military boys. I guess that's the problem here. That's funny. Dang, is this a bowling alley? That's so funny. See, again, that's the sort of little details that I'm always talking about. Like, what did a bowling alley look like in 1943? This is what bowling pins looked like. They're so much fatter, like they actually do look different than modern bowling pins. And I never would have guessed that, but because I can see it right here, because it's been preserved in this film, now I know that bowling pins have not always looked the same way. And again, it's a very funny suggestion that kids were just like hanging out at bowling alleys instead of going to school. Like, again, I don't think you could force a kid to step foot in a bowling alley today. Dang, so this military kid is taking this girl on a date to the bowling alley. I guess things were just a little bit simpler back then. Or he met her at the bowling alley and now they're leaving. I don't know. So really all they're warning you against is like, hey, make sure your daughter isn't like finding these heroic men who are fighting Nazis attractive. Like, that's really bad for our society, actually. Like, I don't know. I still don't actually get like the true juvenile delinquency argument here. Like, a girl is going to fall in love with a boy, especially if he's in a uniform. Like, that's really not different at all from today's day and age. I don't know if that's really worth warning people about.
Boy meets girl romances culminate in hasty marriages with short and hectic honeymoons.
They culminate in hasty marriages with short honeymoons. That's what a weird like thing to be worrying about, really. Like, I guess the argument they're making is that like girls who become like juvenile delinquents as girls have like worse marriages with men because they rush into them, which I guess ultimately leads to children being raised in broken households, which I guess is an argument for like increasing crime rates or whatever. But that's a bit of a stretch to say that this girl being attracted to a boy because of the spirit of hero worship resulted in like a worsening society. I don't know.
Even well brought up and well-intentioned boys and girls in their late teens.
Dude, why does this guy look so familiar? He looks like Adrian Brody's dad or something.
In early 20s are victims of war's restlessness.
Victims of war's restlessness. So they really are attributing these negative behaviors to the presence of the war in everyone's mind. That is very interesting because this is providing us an insight into the mentality of wartime in America, right? It's been so long since war has actually like affected us mentally and like emotionally. But during this time, that was very much what was happening to all these people. So we are getting to see both how it affected people and also how it affected people's paranoias, right? Like, not only are we becoming more worried about our girls falling for soldiers or something, but we're also seeing like this program itself is the manifestation of worries in our society that women are going to fall for soldiers. Like, we are making this because we are worried that girls are going to become easy with boys in uniform, so we have to make this program to warn them against that. This is providing such insight into how people thought about these sorts of things back then. It's very fascinating. I'm definitely not the best person to be watching this. I feel like you need like a psychologist to really understand like the trauma that the war has done to most of these people's mentalities, but I think I'm doing a good job. So let's keep going.
Before they scarcely become more than friends, the boy is ordered to duty miles from home, and the girl returns.
Before they've scarcely become friends, the boy is ordered to duty. Maybe the problem isn't that this kid is marrying this girl very quickly. Maybe the problem is this kid thinks he's about to die by going to war. So he is desperately trying to build himself a future before then. You know, like maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's not about kids going to school or not. Maybe it's about telling kids that we're going to send you to a war to get your head blown off. Maybe that's the bigger problem, you know? Maybe that's just me though. Maybe I'm the only one saying that.
Turn to the comparative monotony of school.
It's just like if you're going to complain about kids rushing into marriages, and the reason kids rushing into marriages is because you're sending those kids off to fight in a war. I don't know. I don't think you can really blame the behavior on the children at that point.
Or work. In spite of their good intentions, these young people often find themselves in dangerous situations during their leisure time.
But again, they're not really giving us any examples of like the danger that they're actually in. Like, yeah, we saw these two men approach these two women in a bar, but like that seems pretty standard, especially for the time, you know? Like, I don't know, that doesn't really ring as like danger in my ears, at least.
In a world at war, as in peace, it is every parent's duty to equip the younger members of the family for the post-war task ahead. It is more important to...
What did he just say? To give every one of your family members a post-war task? Is that what he said? I don't really understand what they're just going about.
In a world at war, as in peace.
In a world at war, as in peace. So no matter what is what they're saying here.
It is every parent's duty to equip the younger...
No matter what, it is every parent's duty to equip the younger generations.
Members of the family for the post-war task ahead.
Alright, so it is every parent's job to prepare their family for the post-war job ahead. So they're obviously talking about some aspect of the war ending and like what's going to be done. And like what's going to need to be done after the war is done, which is a very interesting point. So you have to prepare your family for what a post-war world is even going to look like. See, again, like this is just informing us on how much the war affected people's mentalities back then. It really is incredible.
It is more important.
Like it's hard for us to even fathom like how much these people thought about this conflict, and with good reason too. Like when your father or your and for good reason too, when your father or brother or son is literally fighting a war for you, like how can you think about anything else really? You know, it's just like I don't know. We are getting to see like the raw effects the war had on the home-time populace.
It is more important today than ever before to maintain a normal home life. No parent can escape the responsibility of guiding the next generation to maturity. If you must...
Look at all these kids. These kids might actually still be like around today. They'd still be pretty old. Honestly, these kids would also be like 80 at this point. But these kids, this classroom of kids, at least one of these kids is still kicking it today. I guarantee you. Look at the little girls with their hair. Their fashions are so funny back then. Like the way they cut these girls' hair and the dresses they're wearing. It's just like, it is different than today, for sure.
Be away from home all day. Place your children in a community care center, kindergarten, or elsewhere, in the charge of competent, understanding supervisors. Know your children's companions. If you move to a new neighborhood, find out with whom your small children are playing.
See, the advice they're giving now is just like the most like standard parenting advice. Like, know the children that your children play with. Like, yeah, I would imagine you should do that. Yeah, like you should know who your kid is interacting with. Like, that's not, I feel like we didn't ever need to be told that. But maybe we did. Maybe that was a lesson that somebody learned back then.
And meet their parents. Raise your children to respect the law rather than to fear it.
That is so funny. These kids just came running to give this like police officer a hug. That's like, you won't see that anymore today for sure. But it's also really cool to see the uniform that the police officer's in. Like this like long trenched coat or whatever, like that's such a look. That is an old look, but it is a good look too. I want a jacket like that now.
And to regard the policeman as their friend. Teach growing boys and girls the true value of money.
See, I feel like now what they're saying is just like how to parent children regularly. Like, yeah, I guess teaching a kid about the value of money will somehow help prevent them from becoming criminals or whatever, but like, will it? Like, I don't even know if that's true. This is also a really interesting piggy bank. It's a piggy bank made of glass, which obviously isn't that cool or whatever, but like, it's just interesting that they had piggy banks made of glass all the way back then as well. You know, like that seems like such a knickknack that was only made in like gift shops nowadays. But no, they had those back then too. That's just funny.
Have them start their own savings accounts and invest part of their allowance in war stamps.
Invest part of your children's allowance in war stamps. That's a great idea. That's just like, I love how that's the example of like investing your money is buying war stamps. I don't even know if that's for mail or if that's just like a bond or whatever, but like, that's really funny how that's the advice. Like, yeah, spend all the money you would for your kid on war stamps.
Show them how a systematic saving program will help them attain the things they want.
Yeah, this is just teaching your child financial literature. Yeah, this is just teaching your child financial literacy. This isn't like preventing your kid from becoming a criminal, you know? Like, this is what you should have done regardless.
And provide for their future security. Encourage your children.
Dude, I wish my mom taught me about money. Like, no offense to her, but like, I did not get these lessons either. And you know what? I didn't turn out to be a criminal, so that's I guess an example.
To read good literature by subscribing to wholesome magazines and by having
good literature by subscribing to wholesome magazines. So hang on, this book is just called Smokey. Has anyone read this book? Please let me know. What are these other books? Oh, I can barely read them. This one is Two of a Kind. I haven't heard of any of these, but maybe somebody has.
And by having them join your local lending library.
Oh, and have them join your local lending library. That's funny. That's funny how they would call it a local lending library as opposed to a non-lending library. I don't know. I can't imagine what that would even be.
Help them find hobbies, amusement.
Yeah, this is just like be a good parent, you know? Like that really is how you avoid your child becoming like a criminal or a truant or a juvenile delinquent. It's just like to be a good parent, I guess.
And entertainment in the home.
That's so funny that she's teaching her how to knit. Like that is such an old person thing to do. Dang, look, they have their own film projector. This must be like a wealthy family. I don't know what the price of a film projector was back then, but this seems like a very affluent thing to have. Not only do you have a film projector, that means you have like a home theater. That's just wild. What movies do they even have to watch back then? Like they don't even, maybe Snow White? Like, I don't know. Maybe maybe they're all watching Birth of a Nation for all we know. Who knows?
Join your local parent-teacher association. Attend the meetings regularly and participate in its activities.
So yeah, this is just saying like be involved in your child's life and education, you know, like actually take an interest in like their benefit. Like it's funny that we had to tell people stuff like this. Like I feel like even though parents nowadays don't join the parent-teacher association or whatever, like at least we know that like you should, you know, like that's back then they didn't even know that was an option, you know.
Get acquainted with your children's teachers. And check with them frequently to make sure your boys and girls are attending school regularly.
See, that's so funny, though, that you would need to check in with the school to make sure your kids were attending school. You know, like when I grew up, like we just had like automatic like internet attendance. Like my dad got notifications sent to his phone the second I was marked absent in school. You know, like I had no chance of even getting away with stuff like this because they just had it all on lockdown. So it's interesting to see how the world was before that happened.
Help keep your older sons and daughters out of trouble by encouraging them to bring their friends to your home.
That's actually really funny. Instead of going to like the club with the jukebox, like why don't you guys all come to my house? I have all my old records that you guys can listen to. That's what the kids like, right? My old record collection. Dad's old pre-war record collection. Yeah, nothing gets kids dancing like that.
Insist on meeting your daughter's dates
Insist on meeting your daughter's dates. Again, it's pretty funny that like you even needed to say that. Like that's implying that there was a whole generation of men whose daughters went on dates and they just didn't even care. You know, they didn't even want to meet the guy, which is like kind of funny. I doubt that's actually like accurate, but like the fact that they're saying it makes me think that it's at least a little accurate, you know?
Learn something about their backgrounds and associations.
This is just like common knowledge though. I don't know. I feel like I'm not learning anything.
Whatever your religious faith, train your children to attend church services regularly.
That's interesting too. Whatever your religious faith, train your kids to go to your religious church services. That's just weird how they are open to any faith, but they definitely want your children to be a form of religious. You know, it doesn't even matter what religion. They just want your child to be religious, which is interesting. I mean, I guess a big purpose of religion is to like instill values and like rules into kids. So I guess that's just the same thing over again, really.
And set an example by going with them.
And set an example by going with them. Though, can you imagine, like, just sending your kids to church while you don't go? Like, that's a funny thing that they even had to like mention that.
An example by going with them as much as possible. As parents, you can render no greater service to your country than by providing a wholesome, normal home life for your children.
You know, I do agree with that. As parents, you can provide no greater of a service than providing your kids with like a good, healthy learning environment. Like that is really true. Like you are creating the future. It's funny how we got here.
Give them the parental guidance and supervision they need to become good American citizens.
This is just like a crazy series of kids right here. Like I really am curious about these kids now. Like they are just about dying at this point. Like that's what makes it so crazy that we're seeing them now.
Take their places as leaders.
This poor girl, yeah, she's probably having a real hard time right about now. But she's had a whole lifetime prior to that too.
In the new world that will be theirs. His education forms the common mind just as the...
Oh, hang on, that was funny. This kid's little like hood, his little hood that zips up. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's a little like piece of clothing that a kid would find so awesome. And that like I would never think a kid back during this age would have a hoodie with a zipping hood. Like that's I don't know. I wasn't expecting that.
Common mind, just as the twig is bent, the trees incline.
Okay, that is the last time we've heard this statement. Just as the twig is bent, the tree is inclined. So does that mean that like even if one little piece of the tree is bent in one way, then the whole tree is kind of affected like that? Is that what that metaphor means? I don't want to even guess. I feel like I'm making myself look so dumb by not even understanding. But I really don't. Like the whole title of this is As the Twig is Bent. Like I just don't get it. I don't get it. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, okay. Aetna Life is an insurance company. That's so funny. So there's Aetna Life Insurance, there's automobile insurance, there's fire insurance, and there's casualty insurance. That's I'm not quite sure what casualty insurance is, but that's crazy. That's like, okay, so I was right. Aetna is an insurance company. That's funny. So honestly, it kind of makes sense that this sort of program was made by an insurance company, you know, I don't know, there is a connection there. This is a very responsible program for an insurance company to be a part of. You know, they are just trying to improve people's behaviors, probably to make insurance premiums go down. I don't know. Okay, but yeah, that's the end. So that was an interesting watch. I don't know if this is really a saucy red. This is a light red, all right? There was nothing too bad in this. Like, I was really expecting for us to actually see examples of like juvenile delinquency, but we didn't get anything like that. We just got warnings against juvenile delinquency, but we really just did not get to see any truly bad behavior on the kid's part. I mean, unless you think rolling die or dancing to a jukebox is really bad behavior, then no, I don't think we actually saw like bad behavior from a child, which is kind of, it sounds weird to say, but it was kind of what I was hoping for out of this. I wanted to see what problems our society was dealing with and how we would handle them. Obviously, this kind of gave us a hint as to what problems we were dealing with, juvenile delinquency, but we didn't really get a solid example of that problem, and we didn't really get a solid way of dealing with it. We kind of just got like, oh, if your kid's being bad, be a better parent. That's the whole solution to this problem. And I don't know if that's really everything that needed to be said. I was expecting more, and I was expecting worse. But at the same time, this did do a very good job of illustrating, like I said earlier, the paranoia and just like the fear of mind that people had during the wartime. Like people just were so worried about everything, and that obviously extended to their families and their children. So at the very least, I do think we understand how people felt during this period. Maybe we don't quite understand how children were acting juvenilely delinquent back then, but at least we understand people's worries about it, and that is revealing as well. But I think that's all I have to say on this. There's really not much else to talk about. So if you enjoyed watching and would like to help support me and this channel, you can follow the link in the description that'll bring you over to the Internet Archive. The Internet Archive is where I get all of these old programs from. So if you want to help support me, go over and donate to them. And with that, we're ready to cut to black.